Hey students, this is your Nandini ma'am, and today we are going to read the chapter or the topic Forearm and Hand. Let's get started. Introduction. Forearm extends between the elbow and the wrist joints. Radius and ulna form its skeleton. These two bones articulate at both their ends to form superior and inferior radio-ulnar joints. Their shafts are kept at optimal distance by the interosseous membrane. Muscles accompanied by nerves and blood vessels are present both on the front and the back of the forearm. Hand is the most distal part of the upper limb, meant for carrying out diverse activities. Numerous muscles, tendons, bursae, blood vessels, and nerves are artistically placed and protected in this region. Surface landmarks of front of forearm. Number 1. The epicondyles of the humerus have been examined. Note that medial epicondyle is more prominent than the lateral. Figure 9.1. The posterior surface of the medial epicondyle is crossed by the ulnar nerve, which can be rolled under the palpating finger. Pressure on the nerve produces tingling sensations on the medial side of the hand. See figure 8.13a. Second point. The tendon of the biceps brachii can be felt in front of the elbow. It can be made prominent by flexing the elbow joint against resistance. Pulsations of the brachial artery can be felt just medial to the tendon. See figure 8.17. Number 3. The head of the radius can be palpated in a depression on the posterior lateral aspect of the extended elbow distal to the lateral epicondyle. Its rotation can be felt during pronation and supination of the forearm. Number 4. The styloid process of the radius projects 1 centimeter lower than the styloid process of the ulna, figure 9.51. It can be felt in the upper part of the anatomical snuff box. Its tip is concealed by the tendons of the abductor pollicis longus and the extensor pollicis brevis, which must be relaxed during palpation. Number 5. The head of the ulna forms a surface elevation on the medial part of the posterior surface of the wrist when the hand is pronated. Number 6. The styloid process of the ulna projects downwards from the posterior medial aspect of the lower end of the ulna. Its tip can be felt on the posterior medial aspect of the wrist, where it lies about 1 centimeter above the tip of the styloid process of the radius. Figure 9.1. Number 7. The pisiform bone can be felt at the base of the hypothenar eminence, medially, where the tendon of the flexor carpi ulnaris terminates. It becomes visible and easily palpable at the medial end of the distal transverse crease, junction of forearm and hand, when the wrist is fully extended. Number 8. The hook of the hamate lies 1 finger breadth below the pisiform bone, in line with the ulnar border of the ring finger. It can be felt only on deep palpation through the hypothenar muscles. Number 9. The tubercle of the scaphoid lies beneath the lateral part of the distal transverse crease in an extended wrist. It can be felt at the base of the thenar eminence in a depression just lateral to the tendon of the flexor carpi radialis. Figure 9.2. Number 10. The tubercle or crest of the trapezium may be felt on deep palpation inferior lateral to the tubercle of the scaphoid. Number 11. The brachioradialis becomes prominent along the lateral border of the forearm when the elbow is flexed against resistance in the mid-prone position of the hand. Number 12. The tendons of the flexor carpi radialis, palmaris longus, and flexor carpi ulnaris can be identified on the front of the wrist when the hand is flexed against resistance. The tendons lie in the order stated from lateral to the medial side. Figures 9.3a to c. Number 13. The pulsation of the radial artery can be felt in front of the lower end of the radius just lateral to the tendon of the flexor carpi radialis. Number 14. The pulsations of the ulnar artery can be felt by careful palpation just lateral to the tendon of the flexor carpi ulnaris. Here, the ulnar nerve lies medial to the artery. Number 15. The transverse creases in front of the wrist are important landmarks. The proximal transverse crease lies at the level of the wrist joint, and the distal crease corresponds to the proximal border of the flexor retinaculum. Number 16. The median nerve is very superficial in position at and above the wrist. It lies along the lateral edge of the tendon of the palmaris longus at the middle of the wrist. Muscles of front of forearm. The muscles of the front of the forearm may be divided into superficial and deep groups. Components. The front of the forearm presents the following components for study. Number 1. 8 muscles, 5 superficial and 3 deep. Number 2. 2 arteries, radial and ulnar. Number 3. 3 nerves, median, ulnar and radial. These structures can be better understood by reviewing the long bones of the upper limb and having an articulated hand by the side. Superficial muscles. There are 5 muscles in the superficial group. These are the pronator teres, the flexor carpi radialis, the palmaris longus, the flexor carpi ulnaris, and the flexor digitorum superficialis. Tables 9.1 and 9.2. Common flexor origin. All the superficial flexors of the forearm have a common origin from the front of the medial epicondyle of the humerus. This is called the common flexor origin. Additional features of superficial muscles. Number 1. Pronator teres. Pronator teres comprises a big humeral and a small ulnar head. Between the two heads, median nerve leaves the cubital fossa. Deep to the two heads exits ulnar artery from cubital fossa into the front of forearm. It forms medial boundary of the cubital fossa. It is the pronator of forearm. Figures 9.5a and 9.11. Number 2. Flexor carpi radialis. It passes through a separate deep compartment of the flexor retinaculum. Flexor carpi radialis gets inserted into anterior aspects of bases of second and third metacarpal bones. It is easily seen and is a guide to radial pulse which lies lateral to the tendon. Figure 9.5b. Number 3. Palmaris longus. Palmaris longus, vestigial muscle, continues as palmar aponeurosis into the palm to protect the nerves and vessels there. Its tendon lies superficial to flexor retinaculum. Number 4. Flexor carpi ulnaris. It is inserted into pisiform bone. Pisiform is a sesamoid bone in this tendon. Number 5. Flexor digitorum superficialis. Flexor digitorum superficialis comprises the humero-ulnar and radial heads. The two heads of the muscle are joined by a fibrous arch. Median nerve and ulnar artery pass downwards deep to the fibrous arch. Figure 9.4. Deep muscles. Deep muscles of the front of the forearm are the flexor digitorum profundus, the flexor pollicis longus, and the pronator quadratus and are described in tables 9.3 and 9.4. So first we'll go through table 9.1 and then we'll continue deep muscles. Table 9.1, attachments of the superficial muscles. So the headings are muscle, origin, and insertion. Number 1, pronator teres, figures 9.3 A to C. Medial epicondyle of humerus and medial margin of coronoid process is the origin. Insertion is middle of lateral aspect of shaft of radius. Number 2, flexor carpi radialis. Origin is medial epicondyle of humerus. Insertion is bases of second and third metacarpal bones. Number 3, palmaris longus. Origin is medial epicondyle of humerus. Insertion, flexor retinaculum and palmar aponeurosis. Number 4, flexor digitorum superficialis, figure 9.8. Humero-ulnar head. Origin is medial epicondyle of humerus, medial border of coronoid process of ulna. Insertion is muscle divides into 4 tendons. Each tendon divides into 2 slips, which are inserted on sides of middle fillings of 2nd to 5th digits, figures 9.3b and d. The radial head originates from anterior oblique line of shaft of radius and insertion is the same as that of the humero-ulnar head. Number 5. Flexor carpi radial ulnaris. Humeral head origin is medial epicondyle of humerus. Ulnar head origin is medial aspect of olecranon process and posterior border of ulna. And the insertion for both of them is pisiform bone. Insertion prolonged to hook of the hamate and the base of 5th metacarpal bone. See figure 2.32b. Table 9.2, nerve supply and actions of the superficial muscles. Muscle, nerve supply and actions. Number 1, pronator teres. The nerve supply is median nerve and the actions are pronation of forearm. Number 2, flexor carpi radialis. The nerve supply is median nerve and the actions are it flexes and abducts hand at wrist joint. Number 3, palmaris longus. Nerve supply is median nerve and the actions are it flexes wrist joint. Number 4, flexor digitorum superficialis, figures 9.4 and 9.5. Nerve supply is median nerve and the actions are it flexes middle fillings of fingers and assists in flexing proximal fillings and wrist joint. Number 5, flexor carpi ulnaris. Nerve supply is ulnar nerve and the actions are flexes and adducts the hand at the wrist joint. Now following are some other points of importance about these muscles. Additional points about the flexor digitorum profundus. Number 1, it is the most powerful and most bulky muscle of the forearm. It forms the muscular elevation seen and felt on the posterior surface of the forearm medial to the subcutaneous posterior border of the ulna, figure 9.6. Number 2, the main gripping power of the hand is provided by the flexor digitorum profundus. Number 3, the muscle is supplied by 2 different nerves. So, it is a hybrid muscle. Additional points about the flexor pollicis longus. Number 1, the anterior introitious nerve and the vessels descend on the anterior surface of the introitious membrane between the flexor digitorum profundus and the flexor pollicis longus, figure 9.5. Number 2, the tendon passes deep to the flexor retinaculum between the opponent's pollicis and the oblique head of the adductor pollicis to enter the fibrous flexor sheath of the thumb. It lies in the radial bursa, figure 9.7. Synovial sheaths of flexor tendons. Number 1. Common flexor synovial sheath, ulnar bursa. The long flexor tendons of the fingers, flexor digitorum superficialis and profundus, are enclosed in a common synovial sheath while passing deep to the flexor retinaculum carpal tunnel. The sheath has a parietal layer lining the walls of the carpal tunnel and a visceral layer closely applied to the tendons. Figure 9.7. From the arrangement of the sheath, it appears that the synovial sac has been invaginated by the tendons from its lateral side. The synovial sheath extends upwards for 5.0 or 7.5 centimeter into the forearm and downwards into the palm up to the middle of the shafts of the metacarpal bones. It is important to note that the lower medial end is continuous with the digital synovial sheath of the little finger. Number 2. Synovial sheath of the tendon of flexor pollicis longus, radial bursa. This sheath is separate. Superiorly, it is coextensive with the common sheath, and inferiorly, it extends up to the distal phalanx of the thumb. Figure 9.7. Number 3. Digital synovial sheaths. The sheaths enclose the flexor tendons in the fingers and line the fibrous flexor sheaths. The digital sheath of the little finger is continuous with the ulnar bursa and that of the thumb with the radial bursa. However, the digital sheaths of the index, middle, and ring fingers are separate and independent. Figure 9.7. Vincula longa and brevia. The vincula longa and brevia are synovial folds which connect the tendons to the phalanges. They transmit vessels to the tendons, figure 9.8. These are the remnants of mesotendon dissection. The skin of the forearm has already been reflected on each side. Cut through the superficial and deep fascia to expose the superficial muscles of the forearm. Table 9.3. Attachments of the deep muscles. Muscle, origin, and insertion. Number 1. Flexor digitorum profundus, composite or hybrid muscle, figure 9.6. Origin is at upper 3/4 of the anterior and medial surface of the shaft of ulna, upper 3/4 of the posterior border of ulna, medial surface of the olecranon and coronoid processes of ulna, and adjoining part of the anterior surface of the interosseous membrane. The insertion is at the muscle forms 4 tendons for the medial 4 digits which enter the palm by passing deep to the flexor retinaculum in ulnar bursa and digital synovial sheaths. Opposite the proximal phalanx of the corresponding digit, the tendon perforates the tendon of the flexor digitorum superficialis, figure 9.8. Each tendon is inserted on the palmar surface of the base of the distal phalanx, figure 9.8. Number 2. Flexor pollicis longus. The origin is at upper 3/4 of the anterior surface of the shaft of radius, figure 9.6, and adjoining part of the anterior surface of the interosseous membrane. The insertion is at the tendon enters the palm by passing deep to the flexor retinaculum. It is inserted into the palmar surface of the distal phalanx of the thumb. Number 3. Pronator quadratus. The origin. Oblique ridge on the lower 1/4 of the anterior surface of the shaft of ulna and the area medial to it. Figure 9.6. Insertion. Superficial fibers into the lower 1/4 of the anterior surface and the anterior border of the radius. Deep fibers into the triangular area above the ulnar notch. Table 9.4. Nerve supply and actions of the deep muscles. Number 1. Flexor digitorum profundus, figure 9.6. The nerve supply. Medial half by the ulnar nerve and the lateral half by anterior interosseous nerve C8T1, which is branch of median nerve. Actions are flexor of digital or distal phalanges after the flexor digitorum superficialis has flexed the middle phalanges. Secondarily, it flexes the other joints of the fingers and the wrist. It is the chief gripping muscle. It acts best when the wrist is extended. Number 2, flexor pollicis longus. Nerve supply is anterior introitious nerve, and the actions are flexes the distal phalanx of the thumb. Continued action may also flex the proximal joints crossed by the tendon. Number 3, pronator quadratus. Nerve supply is by anterior introitious nerve. Actions are superficial fibers pronate the forearm and the deep fibers bind the lower ends of the radius and ulna. Superficial muscles. Identify these 5 superficial muscles. These are from lateral to medial side. Pronator teres getting inserted into the middle of radius. Flexor carpi radialis reaching till the wrist. Palmaris longus continuing with palmar aponeurosis. Flexor digitorum superficialis passing through the palm, and most medially the flexor carpi ulnaris getting inserted into the pisiform bone. Figures 9.3a and b. Deep muscles. Cut through the origin of superficial muscles of forearm at the level of medial epicondyle of humerus and reflect them distally. This will expose the 3 deep muscles. For example, flexor pollicis longus, flexor digitorum profundus, and pronator quadratus. So this was about the muscles, and rest of the topic of forearm we'll continue in the next part of the video. Thank you so much.